Hi, and welcome to the Introduction to Servant Leadership. I'm Karen Bubb, a Senior Servant Leadership Consultant for the National Centers of Healthcare Leadership. We have successfully trained and established servant leadership programs in over 45 companies. This program really works. So today I'll be introducing you to the concept of servant leadership. This is the first step in the training. I'll start with a brief overview that covers the topics I will be discussing in this presentation. But just a quick review of the mission statement for Main Street Medical. We acknowledge the importance of every individual and are driven by our commitment to excellence in leadership. I am confident you will achieve the objectives in your mission statement through the Servant Leadership Program. I'll identify two major challenges that Main Street Medical Center is facing: high employee turnover rate and the current method of leadership in the organization. And then I will introduce the concept of servant leadership and explain both the benefits and the barriers to the program. So what are the challenges that Main Street Medical Center is facing? First, there is a higher than average turnover rate for employees. The Human Resources Department of Main Street Medical Center conducted employee exit interviews and compiled a list of the top 3 most common complaints. The first was the employees felt like they were oppressed. They had low compensation, and then they felt that there was a lack of respect from their leadership. This graph from the Human Resources Department indicates that the employee turnover rate for Main Street Medical Center is trending upwards, resulting in significant costs. There is a decrease in productivity. There is a heavy workload that's been placed on the remaining employees. There's a loss of expertise and skill, an increase in expenses to retrain a new recruit, and expenses and time to go through the interview process and pay recruiters. The current method of leadership in Main Street Medical Center is termed the autocratic delegation continuum, which basically means most people in here are directive autocrats. They make all the decision, they regulate work activities very closely, and some use a military-style leadership, which is where feedback is unwelcome and there's no room for discussion and no compromises. So now I'll introduce you to servant leadership, which is the opposite of the autocratic style. A servant leader shares power, puts the needs of others first, and helps people to perform as highly as possible. The term servant leadership was first introduced by Robert Greenleaf in 1970, and it focuses towards the advancement and contentment of people in their societies in which they belong. There are 10 principles of servant leadership that Mr. Greenleaf has outlined. The first is listening, which involves more than just hearing. Servant leaders must listen attentively and be receptive to what is spoken, but they should also understand what is unspoken. The next is empathy, which is the ability to identify with and understand emotions that an individual is experiencing at the time. Healing refers to restoring and rebuilding a person. A servant leader has the ability to build trust and relate to an individual and let them know that they have their best interest in mind. Awareness is basically discernment. A servant leader is very keen on knowing what is going on around them. They are also very self-aware. They're secure in how they see themselves as a person, and they know their own core values and beliefs, and they know what they want in life and understand their own weaknesses and strengths. Conceptualization is the ability to put together all of the plans and implement them. And then there's persuasion, which is the ability to reason with others to get them to do something instead of using authority to force compliance. Foresight is the ability to plan ahead for future events and predict potential consequences of future plans. Stewardship is the ability to manage and maintain property and finances, basically save money. Commitment to the growth of people focuses on treating people as valuable and important. This is a very important part. A servant leader should treat employees with respect, kindness, compassion, and interest. And finally, building community, which involves encouraging and developing genuine relationships among the individuals in the group or the team. Servant leaders should encourage this by organizing team-building activities that'll bring people closer together. This will help them feel secure, nurtured, and supported by the organization, which in turn helps them to have more of a commitment and a devotion. There are a few barriers that can hinder the successful implementation of servant leadership. First, it's not an instant fix. It takes a lot of dedication for leaders to discover their personal limitations and successfully change them. They have to work through all kinds of self-awareness issues, but in the long term, the results are very beneficial. The second, all leadership in the organization must participate in the servant leadership program. Everyone needs to be all in. One bad apple can definitely spoil all of the good ones. Dr. Greenleaf's concept of servant leadership suggests that leaders should lead by helping others become the best they can be. It begins with following the golden rule. Treat others the same way you want them to treat you. In summary, implementing a servant leadership program will enable Main Street Medical Center to achieve the objectives in their mission statement by positively connecting with their employees and establishing fulfilling relationships with them. This, in turn, will create and improve the employee retention rate and decrease the employee turnover rate. Servant leadership will also help leaders learn how to motivate their staff, and obviously this is going to improve morale, and this will ultimately improve the productivity of the overall organization. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this information, and I hope that you learned something and you can implement servant leadership in your organization.